sailors run like men.
The people that moved from Scotland and Ireland to America that eventually immigrated to the Appalachians, if you've ever been there, that's very much, the landscape is very similar to Scotland. So I think they settled there because they felt at home. And rather than, say, assimilate, I think the Scottish culture really, in fact, held on very fiercely to their traditions and to their music.
I was born into it. My grandparents played, and I was raised by them, and that's all I've ever known is playing bluegrass, thank goodness.
Same here. I grew up around my grandparents, and they played a lot of gospel and bluegrass, and it was just the way it was for me.
And my dad was a preacher, and I grew up playing bluegrass in church, all of them old gospel hymns all the way up through I was a teenager.
Our dads wrote songs, we write songs, and we're telling our own story through music. And I think it's an important form of communication. So yeah, definitely it's important for those stories to go on.
I think it was Keith Richards that said that after warmth and food and shelter, music's next, and I agree with that.
American tunes found their way into the local repertoire, and until we found that a few of us shared quite a love for Americana.
Scottish and Irish music came over to the Americas with the immigrants, and as the immigrants moved out from that New England area into the edges of North and South Carolina, East Tennessee, into the Appalachia, they took those songs from their country into the mountains and continued to write their own stories, traveling songs, dancing songs, songs about the troubles and trials that they went through, stories about love and heartache and toil and trouble.
I think it's important to play traditional music and to remember where the influences come from so that things don't become homogenized and so that we keep learning.
But a lot of it, you can just put your own spin on it. It's 3 chords, batter in. Then just sing your stuff over the top of it, man. It's great. That's what I did the first couple of albums.
It brings people together, I think, and for me personally, it's meant essentially a passport across the world, which I'm really, really grateful for. It's meant friends of all ages for my entire life, which I'm also really grateful for.
I mean, I'm a fiddle player, so fiddle tunes are like heavily influenced by. Growing up, I didn't know I was playing Scottish and Irish tunes. I just knew I was playing a fiddle tune. So it's it's all the immigrants that settled here from everywhere. Bluegrass is a combination of, Scot-Irish and black blues. Being fused together with that drive, but then you've got the melody of the Scot-Irish. The fun, happy, get up and go melodies, but then the drive behind it too. So it's just very important. We're bluegrassers. We're nothing but a combination of those music forms.
mostly it was needing to learn to improvise. And I could see that that was a massive gap in my knowledge. And I could also see that I wasn't going to get that from learning Scottish tunes, nor was I going to get that from my classical lessons. But also, about the same time, my best friend at the time left town, and she was a great Irish flute player. And then I had no one to play like Irish or Scottish tunes with. So the guys that were left that were my age were all interested in bluegrass. So it was totally social as well. If I could play bluegrass, then I could hang out with them, which was really important because I like having people to play music with.
I feel like, yeah, it's quite, obviously there's lots of differences in terms of like the nuances of how you play things, how the accent of the music has developed over the years and become more attributed to different areas. And I think, you know, there's obviously differences in like bowing styles or like, you know, technical differences. Or maybe sometimes there's like literal differences in the melodies, but they're normally for dancing, I would say normally, or like for some kind of communal experience or occasion. And so that's where the similarity is.
Every style of fiddle makes the most sense when you think about the dancing that goes with it. And I think bluegrass, sometimes people pretend that there's not a dance tradition with it, but even Bill Monroe would clog like half a tune on stage, often. So the flat footing really and the clogging goes really with the bluegrass style. Whereas in Scottish traditional music, well, so I find it, when you play for Scottish dancers, you're trying to play them off the ground. And there's quite a lot of time spent in the air, so I'm always trying to think about driving my dancers off of the floor. If I'm playing Irish tunes, there's still quite a lot of time in the air, but it's about when they land on the floor. So you're playing the feet to the floor rather than in Scotland, I feel like you're playing them off the floor.
Because obviously, like, there's a lot of different cultural influences in American bluegrass music, coming from European traditions, but also African traditions, and of course, like the banjo came from Africans and was brought to America, and therefore it became part of the cultural like standard instrument in the music.
No smoke at all coming out of the stack since the mill is pulled out and it ain't coming back.
Obviously, bluegrass was invented for commercial purposes, so it's quite a lot more show-offy. You play the same tune round and round, but the tune is not very important. Where you take it is important. The improvisation on it is important, and it's really important to know the chord progression. It's basically the opposite in traditional Scottish or Irish music, because it's like all on the tune player to know tons of tunes and then be able to switch between them really cleverly, because the change is as important as anything. And definitely when I'm playing for a dance, there'll be times where I need to try and let the dancers know that they need to get to this point of the dance at this time. So I might put in a really obvious change, whereas if they're doing it really well and I don't need, so I think about the changes a lot, and I think about which tune I'm changing from and going to.
Woke up this morning, early as can be, 100,000 things upon my mind. To rid myself of fear, I had myself a little beer. I went back to bed and slept just fine. But I looked to the sky and I wondered, looked to the sea and I cried.
A lot of Scottish people did not choose to leave Scotland. They were forced to through the Highland clearances. So when they got to America, they were very much not ready to move on, not with their lives, as far as their musical lives or with the kinds of foods that they ate or just anything about their culture. So I think the immigrants were very much had a nostalgia for the old country. And so I think that just was felt through the generations, and you have people now that have a nostalgia for a place that perhaps they've never been.
The birds in the breeze sing a sad song. Why you been gone so long?
I think every tune and every song has its own story, you know. Some of them are musical memories of situations that you find yourself in, and
some are true stories.
Some are true stories, and
or exaggerated stories, which is, of course, is always a good way to tell a story, is to exaggerate and embellish. Yeah,
always part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I've named tunes after things that have been particularly memorable, and songs. I've written songs about certain people that that you meet in everyday life.
Where can he go? We'll chase him in the bottle and we'll chase him in the well. Then we'll shoot him in the bottle just to listen to him yell. He's big around the Midland, he's broad across the run. Running 9 miles an hour, shaking 30 feet jump. Ain't never been caught, he ain't never been free. Some folks say he looks a lot like me. Some folks say he looks a lot like me.
But, there's a lot of history that's with it, not just, American history, like it's just around the world.
A lot of tradition. Still, even in the newer bluegrass, there's a lot of tradition you can pick up on.
It's like, for example, like my sister went to Scotland a couple of years ago, and she, like anywhere that she went, like that's all that she heard was just, old style claw hammer. You don't hear that much nowadays, and for that to be continuing on, it's pleasing to know.
Look to the sea and I cry. The birds in the breeze sing a sad song. Why you been gone so long, so long? Why you been gone so long?
It's always said that like the most beautiful songs are about murder and everything, but like, it's those are actual like tale stories that's, told within those songs. But like bluegrass, like it has its own special, just vibe that you get from it, from not just from the music standpoint, but from the lyrics as well too. Like there's so many songs that have so many beautiful lyrics to it. But just the stories behind it is just what's amazing.
Every bluegrass festival, they're gonna pass those stories around.
Oh yeah.
From person to person and keep it well alive. Talking about all of our bluegrassers that have passed on, their stories are still going, and I think we keep them alive through the stories too. Really. Mm-hmm.
There's something, if you can connect with somebody who's telling a story, I think that's the art of a good song. And yeah, it should be familiar, and there should be something that you can relate to while doing that.
I think it's extremely important. It's a way to pass on our history through song. We've got, that's the way it's been handed down from year to year. Our fathers passed it to us, their fathers passed it to them. And there was an oral history long before there was a written history. So the arts, music and visual arts and so on and so forth are a very important way to communicate and to pass on our stories.
When it started, it's just a different world now. So I think for me, and plus because I'm from here and I've been quite lucky, I didn't get brought up in a farm or poor or anything like that, and that's how a lot of this music started out.
We like the tight harmonies. We like the acoustic sound of the music. True bluegrass music is going to be all acoustic. You can take these instruments out in the middle of a park, or you can take them into the middle of a 10-story high-rise, and 10-story high-rise. You can tell we're from Chattanooga, okay? A 50-story high-rise, and play the same song, and it's going to sound basically the same depending on how your echoes are. And it's just nice to be able to get out and share your music with other folks and have somebody enjoy what you're doing.
Music has been the heartbeat of humanity for thousands of years, and a way of expression and bringing joy to people, and that's always the way it should be.
I don't tend to overthink these things, because I'm like, if it makes you feel good and it gets you out of your bed every morning, it's like, I'm having that, it's good.
Bluegrass is a way of life.
Remember your community. Remember what we do this for. It's about bringing people together, and obviously we can't do that physically right now. But any way that we can support each other and come together, I think, is really important. I'm really happy to be part of it. Really happy to be, making the links, because the world needs more bridges, less borders, I think.